Alrighty, so I figured today we would do a little bit more of a discussion video instead of gameplay and yapping about whatever else. Last night I got done recording my video, got it edited, and started uploading it. And then while I was uploading it, I saw a video from Brozyme who was ranting about the Riven changes. And I thought to myself, wait, Rivens are getting changed? And then I looked into it a bit and watched this video, and yeah, in the recent dev short, DE talked about making some Riven changes, which on paper does sound exciting because Rivens have really not been touched in a long time, and there are definitely plenty of problems with it that people were just not liking. But the Riven changes that are coming do not really seem to fix really any of the issues. And of course some YouTubers already put up videos saying like oh yeah, Rivens are going to be OP now. That's just not the case. So for those that don't know, the basic TLDR of the changes is that Rivens will be able to combine stats, so that if you have, say, a Riven with blast not blast, I'll go with cold and toxin, you will be able to combine it into a Riven that is viral damage, which on paper, yeah, it does sound pretty nice. That is some good damage potential. Where even are my Rivens? Okay, here they are. And you'll be able to combine all sorts of other stats. Say, for example, right here, I have toxin and electricity. I will be able to combine it into a... Is it corrosive that makes again? It's been so long since I've made corrosive. What is toxin and electricity again? I'm sorry, I always use viral and heat for pretty much anything. Let's see here. Toxin and electricity is corrosive. Okay, yes, I was correct. So I will be able to take this dual Coda Toxica Riven and be able to combine it into a damage plus corrosive Riven, which is pretty nice on paper for sure. The problem is kind of the rest of the changes though. So they're making it so that you can lock a stat, and that is definitely nice. Like, it's nicer to be able to lock at least a stat instead of no stats, but being able to lock one stat does not really change much in the grand scheme of things because there are more stats getting added. So it's like they're taking away some RNG but then adding more RNG. So just booting up the paint for a quick second, if I have, say, odds that are 1 in 4, this is going to be kind of a scuffed example, but just bear with me for a second, and then that gets reduced to a 1 in 2 chance. That's what the stat locking is going to be able to do, basically. It's like, yeah, it does reduce RNG, but then they're adding more RNG. So like, say they're adding a 1 in 12 chance, which in turn makes it so that my new RNG is just 1 in 24 of actually getting what I want. Ignore my writing. I am not used to writing numbers with a dang mouse. So it's like, yeah, they reduce some RNG, but then they just add more RNG to where the reduction doesn't even really reduce anything. And maybe it's not this bad, but it still could be like, oh yeah, it's a 1 in 4 getting reduced to, you know, a 1 in 2, but then it's multiplied by another 1 in 2 chance, which in the end still makes it down to a 1 in 4. So that's not really doing a whole lot. Hopefully that example makes sense. But then they're also adding another material that you have to grind. Now, in terms of Kuva, how much do I have? Let's see, if I just go to inventory and check out my Kuva amount, I have 2.4 million. Now, I have never really grinded for Kuva because Kuva is just not used for a whole lot. So most of my Kuva comes from just the weekly rewards, you know, Paladino, etc. But this is all the Kuva I have in like my lifetime of playing, and I've played for a ton of hours. Let me see here. My in-game play time is 77 days and 10 hours, or 1859 hours, which is in-game time, so time actually spent in mission. But not only are you going to need to have the Kuva to reroll Rivens, you're going to need to get another material. So it's like they're basically making the grind take longer, and the RNG is just going to be even worse. So just overall, you're going to be spending a lot more time actually grinding out Rivens, unless you're like me where you just don't even really care about Rivens still after the changes. Because for me, I only use 2 Rivens because I just happen to land them. The 2 Rivens that I use are, one is for Strun and then one is for Furious. Now, what is so funny about this? Here's my Furious Riven, pretty good, pretty nice. I will say for the locking system, it's probably going to be best to just lock a negative stat. So if you get a minus zoom stat, probably just lock that. And then here is my Strun Riven. But what's so funny about these Rivens? Well, they're for weapons that have high disposition. So the Strun has a 4 disposition, and then Furious has a disposition of 5. Now, why is that important? Well, let's look it up. So we are on the Warframe Wiki. We can take a look at the Riven page. Warframe Wiki is pretty dang good to look at. It's very nice. If we go down to the disposition section, we can see with 5 dispo, it's 1.31 to 1.55 times the mod's actual strength. The level of stat increases that you are getting. A 4 is still 1.11 to 1.3, so still positive. The 3 is the neutral. It's 0.9 to 1.1. Then 2, you start going down to the negatives where the stats are just not as strong. And 1 is just very poor, of course. So you're telling me that Strun, a weapon with an incarnate that is probably one of the top 10 incarnates maybe? I mean, it's really good, that is for sure. And then Furious, which has a Riven disposition of 5, and with its incarnate is definitely a top 5 incarnate, probably even a top 5 weapon in the game. You're telling me that these two have high Riven dispositions while they're still being great weapons, so really I could live without the Riven and still do amazing damage. And you're telling me something like Aphorus Prime only has a dispo of 3. Let's see what Akjagara Prime has. Oh, a dispo of 3, when this weapon is not even in the realm of competition for Furious. Let's see what Latum has. Okay, 1 makes sense. Latum is very powerful. What does Sicarus have? I think Sicarus is 4. Yep, 4, of course. It's already still a really good weapon. Let's look at something we know is garbage. Let's hear Agrid. 3. Okay. What's another kind of meme weapon? Acrid. Okay, Acrid does have a 5. That's nice. Let's hear the Twin Stubas. They're a Kuva weapon, but they still are on the lower end. Okay, yep, just a 3. This Riven disposition just does not make much sense. Weapons that are really good and insane and are the top ranks among weapons have a dispo of 4 or 5. And then weapons that could really use the help, like Tenet Spyrex, it only has a dispo of 3. I'm sure that if I scan around long enough, I can find like a garbage weapon that has a dispo of 1. Let's see, Akukor is 4. It's also a really good weapon with its special augment mod. What's Vesper have? A 2, even though it's not that amazing. Akirius has a dispo of 1, which kind of makes sense. Akirius Prime is pretty dang good, I would say. The disposition just does not make much sense in the grand scheme of things. Rivens ideally should help out weapons that are garbage, but instead it feels more like a case of the rich get richer. Cause Strun, yeah, it's insane, and this Riven just makes it even more insane, when it does not need to be even more insane. I can definitely live without this Riven. Heck, if I were to get rid of this, I would just have the lower damage variant, which is Blaze. So, and I don't think they're even touching up on Riven disposition. I could be wrong on that, but I didn't hear anything that mentioned Riven disposition. So all in all, these Riven changes just do not really do anything in the grand scheme of things. They just increase the potential to actually get, well, not even to get, but rather the potential of a Riven. So it's like the ceiling is going to be higher for Rivens, but the floor is also pretty much going to be lower because of how annoying it is going to be getting them. I don't think Riven capacity got touched up on either. So Rivens are for a bad weapon are still going to not do anything. You're going to have a harder time getting Rivens because they are going to cost a lot more materials and there's just more RNG to have to consider. Yes, you can lock a stat, but it's just a stat. Take my paint example for how reducing one part of RNG does not affect the overall RNG if more RNG is being added at the same time. Really, I just hope that Riven stuff does not clog up the reward pool for upcoming updates. I really don't want to be Riven stuff to be the new Omniforma blueprint. How many Omniforma blueprints do I have at this point? 10. Okay, less than I thought. So really, I think this Riven change it misses the goal of what it should do. It should make Rivens be easier to get, and they should probably actually be more beneficial to weapons that suck. Instead, neither is being accomplished. And some might try to say, oh, but the Riven market would be down in shambles if they did changes like that. So, who truly cares? outside of the gamblers. Really, with these changes, I mean, Riven prices might actually go up because, hey, if there's more RNG, then that's just going to increase the rarity of stuff. And if you want to try to argue, well, people spend plat on Rivens, DE needs that income. Look, I believe that if DE needed to make another source of income for plat, they could do it in a much more enticing way. If DE really needs the money, they can do other methods that people will actually agree upon. Rivens are not that. But anyway, just wanted to give my thoughts on this because there's been quite a bit of discussion about it, and I play Warframe quite a bit, so why not talk about it? Hopefully DE listens to feedback and makes some improvements. All I can say is if you want improvements to happen, just don't be aggressive about it. You don't need to be rude, or you don't need to do the Marvel Rivals method, I'll say that.